Alright, so welcome back to another episode. This week we are doing the double feature, Deep Impact and Armageddon. It's our fourth week where we're doing an apocalypse movie. This week we're doing the double feature of meteors coming for Earth, and it's gonna get you.
They both fit into this weird genre and get compared to each other so much, and they're so completely different.
Oh, yeah. That's my biggest thing. When I first, because I've not seen either of these movies, like, ever. I've heard rumblings about Armageddon. I've heard a lot about the Ben Affleck scene where in the commentary he gives Michael Bay a lot of shit for the ridiculous plot. Yeah. Which we'll come back to, because I have a lot to say about that. But generally speaking, like, because I started with Deep Impact, and then I went straight into Armageddon. And with kind of the bare knowledge of what I expected or what I thought these movies were, Deep Impact blew me away from the very get-go all the way to the end. I was like, what? This is a real good movie. Why do people... And then it's got like 40% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I don't know, I feel like it has a vibe. The poster implies a very different movie, and then Armageddon was exactly what I expected, and potentially even dumber, but maybe more enjoyable. Yeah. But like exactly what like when it started, I was like, yes, this is the movie I expected to sit down and watch. Whereas Deep Impact, I thought was incredible and like a great character study and like just, yeah, so different that just because they're both about meteors that are about to destroy the world and scientists go up and stop it by landing on the asteroid. Like there's so many beats in the movie, in these two movies, so many beats that are like the exact same that I cannot believe I watched. They're just such different movies though, even though the basic premise, I suppose, is so like similar. And they came out in the same year, which just baffles me, but it's just, yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, so these two movies, I think, both represent what I would say, and we're probably going to disagree here based on what you just said, but I think these movies are both just two examples of what not to do.
Okay.
But they do both represent, I guess, the two sides of the scale that you go, whether you make a kind of action movie or whether you make your slower paced, character centered drama.
People standing in rooms being like, how do we deal with this?
Yeah, but the way I feel about Deep Impact, I think can be most closely compared with how I feel about the 2014 Godzilla film, which is it takes too long. The Bryan
Cranston one, yeah.
It takes too long to do anything for me to consider worth paying attention to, and there's not enough of it to sustain the movie, and all of the other stuff going on is. It just feels like half-baked character ideas, and each character gets a couple of scenes, but nobody really gets an arc in this movie. And the main character in Deep Impact is the most unlikable, unprofessional, and just gets a job by pure dumb luck. And then is just completely unlikable to all the people in her life for the whole movie. And then the end of the movie is her just accepting her death and going to the beach with her dad, who tells her he dropped her on her head when she was a kid. Thus making the whole movie now make sense, because I guess she was just a bit off and got promoted to a job for... I don't know. I did not like the character stuff in Deep Impact. I thought all of it missed. I thought I don't know. I don't think any of it went anywhere interesting. I don't think they really had anything to say with these characters. I think if you're going to do a character study like this, that you center the study of the characters more, you connect it to what's going on in the real world. The characters in Deep Impact feel radically disconnected from what's actually going on in the universe of this movie. Like, you don't really feel any real world implications until like the traffic jam stuff kind of starts in the,
Yeah.
the latest part of the movie. But but there's just like there's weird kind of jumps in time. Like we transition from one scene to the next one, and there's a title card that says 5 months later. Yet none of the characters have changed at all, and it seemed very clear to me that they hadn't quite worked out the time scale that this movie was operating on, and then had to figure it out in editing.
Yeah.
And now you're left with like characters who obviously haven't spent 5 months of time in universe doing anything, because they're all at exactly the same positions they were 5 months ago, and all of the things being worked out in the scene 5 months later are things that should have been worked out. Like, the reporter doesn't tell her boss about the biggest story ever because she didn't know what the story was, because she's an idiot and didn't really put anything together till the last minute. And then when she did put it all together, chose to tell nobody, and then just kind of springs into it and blindly flails around and asks terrible questions to the president. She's the worst at her job. She's completely unlikable. I don't understand why she hates her father, because I'm just not interested in any of it. Yeah? I don't like any of these people. I don't think that they're trying to say anything with these characters that is connected to what's going on in the movie. I mean, how about we follow a I don't know, a priest who is just like given up on his faith and this is the most cliche thing ever. Yeah, this is a terrible idea, and don't do it. But it's more of an idea than what we get in the movie. Like someone who you kind of look at as, this is the person who believes and faith will get us through, and they've just completely given up, and they're out in the world acting erratically, or things are changing for people because the world's going to end. I don't really feel like they capture any of that in the movie. I don't think the movie does a very good job of exploring the characters and the journey that they should be going on throughout the movie based on what's going on in the movie. I think even the astronauts we follow are very uninteresting. And then it's all starkly contrasted by Michael Bay's attempt to do the same thing, which is all equally as half-baked and bad, but at least chugs along at breakneck speed, and there's lots of flashing lights to keep you distracted.
Okay, wait. So let me just. Which one do you prefer? I just want to know before we get into a big discussion and we disagree for hours. So you prefer Armageddon? Is that what you're saying?
I'm really hesitant to say that because.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
But Armageddon, I felt at times was just. I don't know.
I was at least having fun with Armageddon, and I wasn't.
Yeah, I had fun watching it for sure.
Yeah.
But like, okay, can I counter your deep impact thoughts? Because I don't know, I wasn't expecting you to love it as much as I did, because I was kind of taken aback by how much I liked it. I was, like, the whole time I was like, what the fuck? This is awesome. Like, why do people hate this movie? Now hearing you talk about it, hearing you like, with the words, saying them and stuff, I can hear what you're saying, but I don't know. I felt like it was I really liked the main character. The movie's called Deep Impact. I know it's about like an explosion or some kind of, the world's gonna end. I think I thought it was the movie The Core, where it's like a bunch of scientists have got to go and like dig into the core to like stop the core from exploding or whatever. That's probably not even the plot of that movie, but I don't know. I thought it was gonna be more Armageddon. Let's get a bunch of dudes who shouldn't be here, some underdogs just bloody scrapping by. We don't, was gonna save the world. Whereas this movie starts and it's just like, little science boy. Also, it was Elijah Wood, so the whole time I'm like, it's baby Frodo! He's such a baby! But Lord of the Rings came out like 3 years later. I don't understand how he aged so quickly. It's just like, So I love that. I just loved all of that. But Frodo's doing a thing, and he's looking at the thing, and I'm like, oh, so it's gonna be, that'll be the inciting incident later, but he doesn't realize. Then the guy's like driving, he's like, I gotta get the news to the people. They've got to know about this asteroid. He crashes in an obscene, stupid way. His car explodes on fire, and I'm like, okay, this is exactly what I expected. Big explosion kind of movie, because the car's like toppling down, hits one rock, explodes, and I'm like,
well, that's
sweet.
That seems so out of place after you watch the whole movie. doesn't it?
It totally does, because it kind of threw me onto a loop of like, okay, I'm now going down this highway. Like, I know what type of movie I'm expecting. And then the next 20 minutes are just a reporter trying to figure out this, like, politician scandal. And I'm like, what is this movie? I love it. It's like all this character stuff, and she was trying to do this thing. And that dude from iRobot, the old man, is like, you don't know what you're talking about. I just want to go on a boat with my family. Can't you just let me go on my boat with my family? And I'm like, what am I watching? What is happening? And I was just so caught up with I don't know, I found it such a bizarre, interesting idea to be like, we're not going to start the movie with 1,000 asteroids, exploding ships, exploding cities. We're not going to set the movie up with what it is. We're going to have a slow burn mystery, political drama. And I know it's not, it's not great. It's not like super...
I like that. I like I feel like I say this a lot, but the bones of the idea are there. It's just what we got is like...
The meat on the bones is your issue.
Yeah, it's what they're actually doing. The outline is cool. I like the political intrigue, and there would be a cover-up, and someone's been fired, and it's not for the reasons we think, and she's following it all. But it's... I mean, we want to be either endeared to this character, or we want to watch this character go on a journey. That would be what I assume to be your goal, setting up the main character of this film that we spend the most screen time with, that has the largest part in the movie. And I don't think they did either. They're not setting up an arc that is going to kind of play out, and they're not, making us look kindly upon her. She's just kind of bumbling her way through the situation, gets to where she is based on nothing other than luck, and then the whole thing just doesn't work. There's nothing there. And I can see it being there. I can see the rekindling of the relationship with the estranged father being an interesting way to explore two characters dealing with a meteor coming. You know what? Watching Armageddon and Deep Impact made me realize the best there's a meteor coming towards Earth movie ever is Melancholia. Because it's
actually what that movie's about.
Yeah, it's so good. It's it's revealed in the opening of the film, so it's not really.
Sorry, I don't actually care. Yeah, no, I have no idea what I thought that movie was about. That's with Tom Cruise, yeah? No.
No.
What am I thinking?
It's Kirsten Dunst, and it's Lars.
I think I know a film.
It's a Lars von Trier film, and it's and this chick is depressed, and I guess essentially the core of the movie, if I were to sum it down, and if you've seen Lars von Trier films, it's very hard to distill it into one thing.
I'm not sure if I have. I've definitely heard that name.
It
might have just been like...
He's a very interesting filmmaker, and you would like his stuff, but it's very weird, and it can be often a little bit too long for my liking. I know there's another two-part film he did, called Nymphomaniac, which I just felt like said all it could say. It could have done it in a shorter period of time, but he gets lots of big actors, and Melancholia is really good. It's a kind of character study of depression, and it's like this character who's deeply depressed is aware that there's like a going to be this world-ending event, and she is like kind of getting off on it. You know what I mean? It's like it's
Well, that sounds really fucked.
Yeah, well, it's like a character study of someone who's deeply depressed, and it's framed by this massive world-ending event, and they did something interesting and told a new story. And this is not a film for everybody, but I think it mixes your world-ending cinematography showreel of disaster happening, mixed with character study stuff, mixed with like a film that unravels at a decent pace. And I think you mentioned the core earlier too, which is very interesting, because the core seems, and I haven't seen the core in a long time, but the core does seem like maybe the best parts of Armageddon and Deep Impact mixed into one movie that works pretty well.
Really?
Yeah.
So you'd say that I probably like the core quite a lot then.
I don't know how well it's aged, but my memory of it is at least it's a movie. Which it seems like a very low bar, but at least it plays out like you would expect a movie to, which I don't think Deep Impact or Armageddon do substantially enough, or that there's enough meat on any of the bones of what these movies are trying to do. And I think they're just both very kind of hollow, flat versions of what this genre is capable of. And but you might not get the movies like Melancholia came much later and is so different from these. Like it shares the general genre, but it's not at all the same movie. And the core is kind of that again. And then I guess, I don't know, I'm trying to think of any other comparisons. I guess the only other movies you compare them to are like the Roland Emmerich world-ending disaster porn movies.
I see. I think that maybe because I don't hate Roland Emmerich. His films just not for me. Don't like disaster world-ending movies. Like I want a villain I can hold and punch in the face. A giant cloud destroying, or water destroying a city. It's not uber interesting to me. Whereas I felt this film it did do. I don't know. I was thinking, it's like, does this film work for me if we're not living in our own apocalyptic-esque kind of world right now? Because this movie did stuff where it's like the president's like, I'm talking to the people, and all the people are just sitting at home just being, and he's like, hey, so this is what's happening. We're going to send some astronauts up. We're going to try and do it. But if it fails, we got a bunker. And we're going to let some people in the bunker, but some not. And just all, like, my favorite, like, okay. So in terms of both movies, I felt kind of, not nothing, but I didn't feel anything in Armageddon except for bewilderment and kind of mild amusement and shock and disgust. Whereas Deep Impact, literally was the first movie in like a year that made me actually cry. And it kind of hit me out of nowhere, not like a proper kind of cry, but I was just emotionally overwhelmed by the concept of someone on TV being like, 1 million people are going to go to a bunker, but no one over 50. And then just everyone in the movie is over 50, just realizing that broke me. And for the rest of the movie, I was just like on my edge. I feel like with Deep Impact, like, so let's stay with the main character for a second.
Yep.
No. I know what I was talking about. I don't know. And I feel like maybe, sometimes you're just watching something and you just get hit with that. And maybe it's because, like, in the real world at the moment, they're all like, if you're 65, fucking stay inside. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
They're saying that's old people, but my brain goes, my mom's fucking 67 and she's the fittest, most active, not old person I know. You know, like, and so when they were like in the movie, Morgan Freeman.
Yeah.
I wish it was Martin Freeman. Morgan Freeman is like. Also, just a quick side note on him. I usually do not find him the greatest charismatic voice of all time. Everyone's always like, I wish he narrated my life. When he arrived in that fucking, in the restaurant, I love restaurants when they're like not being used, and it's like, that's always where the prime minister, the president is. The president's always like there in a restaurant waiting to tell you what's up. And I'm like, I don't know what about it is, but I love that setting. Doesn't matter. But when he rocked up, I was like, oh my God, it's Morgan Freeman. He's going to rock the shit out of this. And I thought he was amazing. I usually find him like, you got him in because you could somehow afford him. He kind of reminds me mostly like Bill Nighy, where everyone, I feel like, thinks that they're the greatest actor. But I'm like, what movie is Bill Nighy actually like better than just that dude who's in all those movies?
Yeah. I know what you mean.
This movie for me, Morgan Freeman was like, I don't know. Usually Morgan Freeman's in stuff like Wanted, where I'm like, you just got him in so everyone didn't think this is the worst movie ever. I don't know. I really liked him in this though. But the scene where he laid down the law, he's like, hey guys, extinction level event. We're gonna, I don't know, every time he came on screen
we will not hoard supplies. And
I don't, that was a great impression. I don't know, man. Maybe it's just because I've never really watched politicians. I usually stay away from politics. The last 10 years, my only political knowledge is like the Game of Thrones universe. You know what I mean? Like, I know how that works, but I just don't care about real life politics. It always seems kind of bleh. But recently in the last 2 months, due to this whole thing, maybe just because I've been listening to them more, and I don't know, not even that much, but more than usual. I just found that scene, it just fucking worked for me. Like, I was just so like, oh my God. Like, I think the difference as well, like, you know, Armageddon, there's so many scenes where there's like people in all these different countries, like listening to the TV. It felt so fake and false and gross and just, ugh, in Armageddon. I don't know why. But in this, I don't know, it just really worked for me in Deep Impact. All the scenes where everyone was sitting there at their TVs watching, I just felt like the way the film was shot and looked just felt more real and grounded. And I just felt like, I feel like I could imagine myself sitting at home and then, you know, someone messages me and I'm like, what the fuck? And I turn on the TV and the TV's like, this is happening. The world is over. And then people react like the mum kills herself, but off screen. And they don't even really hear anyone say that. And I found those little bits like the ship they're going to blow up the asteroid and they're going to do it. And then suddenly it cuts to Morgan Freeman and it's like, wait, what? And then he doesn't even hear it. He just looks at someone who's on the phone getting the news and his face just tells you everything. And suddenly you're like, oh, it didn't work. And then the next scene, he's like, it didn't work. And I don't know. I just felt like the way they plotted and played out the story, everything worked for me up until the point where Elijah Wood is like, my babe, my 15-year-old babe, come in the, you know, you be my married thing and all that stuff. That was fine. And then when they get there and the bus is there, he's like, you're on the list. And they're like, we're not on the list. You're on the list. We're not on the list. And it's like, okay, I have a terrible feeling I know what the next scene is going to be after this. And it was the exact scene I thought. Yeah. He gets to the bunker and he's like, family, mum and dad, I'm 15-year-old Frodo. I am going to go on my motorbike, I guess. No, I'm going to run away and then get a motorbike and then save her. That, as soon as he left the bunker or just before the bunker, I was like, oh, this is the movie I expected to watch. Like, silly, cliche, dumb, high emotion, but little logic. Whereas I felt like, I don't know, like I thought the bit where she's like the main character's cracking at the end and she's just like, everyone's drawing straws and that guy draws the straws real long. And he's like, well, that's fucking classic. And he just throws it away. I'm like, oh, I love this. Everyone's just like not in a good place. Yeah. And she just snaps and you think she's taking the kid at first and you're like, oh my God, you're a monster. What are you doing? Let the kid die. But then she gives the seat up, which I felt like was irrational. But I just love that it was like, I don't know, I felt like people in this like indescribable, incomprehensible world, they're going to just make split, rash decisions. Sure. And she just grabs the baby, runs, throws the mum on the bum, the mum and the baby on the helicopter. And then suddenly it's just like, I felt like...
Then why take the child like that? You know, if that's what you're planning, why not just tell her straight
There's no time, Keiran, there's no time. We've just got to go.
So much time walking up all those stairs that you could have told her.
No, I know. I guess... No, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I was expecting something like the Elijah Wood riding on a motorcycle up a cliff as the tsunami hits everyone but him. You know, like I expected that the whole time. And I guess a lot of it, except for that bit, like when he got there and the family was all like, it's all good, just go. I'm like, the fuck? Why weren't you like this with the bus? Like earlier. Yeah. Knew this was coming. Like you must have thought maybe that, I don't know. Yeah. So that for me was like exactly what, I don't know, that part for me was exactly the film you are talking about. Whereas I guess, yeah, I don't know, it just like, it just won me over. Like, even so much so that at the end, when her and her father are dying and he's like, I bumped you on the head and all that stuff, I'm like, oh, this is all clicked. It's all like, she's done this so that she can have this final moment. Like, she's decided that she needs to like give her father that closure. Then I don't know. I just really worked for me. Then the wave came and it's the worst visual effect I've ever seen. It looks worse than the Flash TV series when they do a tsunami. It's like real bad. But I was like, I fucking don't care. I love aged visual effects when
water is especially hard to do visual effects wise, and something they've figured out more recently. I think more than ever.
Yeah, actually, on that subject, because when I was just flicking through the movie again this morning, just to kind of like be like, you know, just to remind myself of it all and just kind of look at some of the effects and just stuff of it. the visual effect of water is atrocious in this movie.
It's just kind of mist with a transparency, you know, there's no connection of the water to the ground for the most part, and it's just kind of faded together in what would now be considered a very rudimentary...
It feels like someone painted their hand blue and just pushed it across the screen. Like, it's just the worst looking thing I've ever seen. Like, it just... But I was actually so invested in the movie that when that happened, my first thought was, oh my God, Rogue One and the Australian movie These Final Hours both end with characters sitting on a beach as the tsunami, apocalypse, water explosion, whatever it is, hits them. And both movies I actually thought were great visual, great ideas, great ending bits.
Yeah.
Both now, I was just like, they're just deep impacted it. That's so interesting to see, like, because I just love that visual imagery of him sitting on this beach, staring out into what is usually serene and peaceful and beautiful, and like the boundless endlessness of the world. And then you see that kind of coming at you. Like, I can't imagine seeing a tsunami. And even though the effect wasn't there where I was like, I was more like, 98. When you thought you could do everything, but you couldn't do anything. But I don't know, it totally worked for me. But then, of course, the tsunami keeps going and it chases Elijah Wood up a mountain as he rides a motorbike.
And he runs away from it,
My favorite bit though is when the family give Elijah Wood the baby, they give Elijah Wood's girl the baby, and they're like, go, there's no time. I'm like, well, okay. As soon as he gets on the motorcycle, there's just this quick shot of him trying to like go through the cars, and the bike skids on the dirt. And the bike almost falls. And I don't know, the deepest part of me.
Stacked,
And part of me is like, they almost just stacked because I think they probably just got Elijah Wood to drive it, and he was like, ooh! Because when you ride a motorbike, dirt like that is really, it's really hard. I've only ridden a little bit before.
Your tire can slip out easy. Yeah.
It can slip out like that, and you'll just crash. Yeah. And I was just like, man, this movie would have just been so fucking good. If Elijah Wood had just been driving and immediately skids, stacks, hits baby and girl dead, and Elijah Wood just gets up, goes, and then he just runs away from and then the tsunami is not chasing Elijah Wood and the girl, but chasing Elijah Wood and the family chasing him for unintentionally murdering. Let me go to another bit that like was such a moment. It actually reminded me a bit of like, you know, when a movie does a thing, and the most recent one I can think of is Rise of the Skywalker, where it's kind of like, I don't just watching the scene play, I'm like, you're going to do this, you're going to, and they like do it at the end, you're like, don't end the movie like this, don't make, and then she says it and you're like, oh God. Whereas this one is kind of, feels like it's the same, but it totally played for me, where Morgan Freeman's like, the water has receded. It has receded. We will rebuild. And then the final shot is like the big wide where it's like they're rebuilding the White House, which has been destroyed. And I don't know, like, I feel like that, if I was not enjoying the film, would just be the cherry on top of why this film sucks. But it ended and I was like, that's beautiful. They're rebuilding. I love it. Even though I was kind of on board with like, I don't know, when the missile failed, he's like, we're going into the bunker. This is what's happening. I was like, oh my God, like, does this film end pessimistically? But then I felt like with the old man and the astronaut crew. So yeah, that's pretty bare bones as well. Old man is like, this is how I used to do it on the day. And the young team's like, we're all cocky and young and sexy and cool. You're too old, Grandpa. Get out of here.
I just, when the astronaut bit was going on, I just, again, realized I don't care about any of these people. One of them is...
Not even Robert Duvall?
One of them is Jon Favreau, weirdly, who looks super young.
So young. That freaked me out. I was like, he's always been big fat chef. Like, I don't like this.
Yeah, young, handsome.
Young.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. He was so slimy and greasy, I felt.
When he died, I didn't even know. And I remember... I remember thinking,
no, I know, yeah.
Did Jon Favreau just die? And then they show a picture on the TV of Jon Favreau, and I was like, okay, Jon Favreau died. Now I know who died. And I still don't care.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I felt at that point when he died, I was like, because I don't know, I felt like half an hour in, they're like, hey, look at all these astronauts at the birthday party. And I was like, wait, are these all the main characters now? What's going on?
What a weird way to introduce them. And they don't really introduce them at all. Like, some of them just get throwaway lines. And
no, you're not. I don't know.
There's such big parts of the movie. You would think that they would do a little bit of character work or set some. I don't know. The goal of the movie doesn't seem to be to try and make a movie, which is baffling. They're just trying to. All right, what would really happen here? And let's just play this out. And I guess I can see it just being a kind of play-by-play of what would happen is a kind of interesting angle, but I think you need to anchor it with a little bit of movie stuff.
Magic.
Like,
So
it doesn't have to all be real all the time and all be kind of... I just don't know what the movie is trying to be, because it's not really connected to reality enough to be that. But then it kind of is, and then they're making such weird character choices all the time, and like the dialogue we get between characters, like all these things that you're saying going on in the movie is so much more interesting you just repeating them back. And I could edit like a really good montage of the movie with you saying all these things and make something pretty entertaining. This movie would make like an excellent 7-minute, YouTube video that someone's edited down. Whereas Armageddon just feels like that constant. Like Armageddon is a 2-hour 40-minute montage. It is like every shot is the setting sun with a helicopter flying in the background and a guy doing the most ridiculous thing he can, like Owen Wilson riding a horse, and then we're cutting back into NASA headquarters and the camera's on a dolly and it's spinning around a character.
Spinning about, yeah.
And it's just like there's so much going on all the time. And then you cut to Deep Impact and it's just like Elijah Wood staring through a telescope. And
see, I think the quaintness. I think the quaintness and the slow and the actually.
But neither of them are doing for me what I want them to do in their respective genres. And I think, but like, I would rather say Armageddon. I would rather it done more like Interstellar, and then Deep Impact. I would rather more done like Melancholia. That's really what I come away from here. It's like I know what the perfect movies are for me, and what I would rather watch. And a lot of people don't like Interstellar and have problems with it, and I have some problems with it. But the presentation of what's going on, and the way that it unfolds, and the pace of it, and the character work that's done in the films, and the way the characters are connected to their situations and to the science fiction is really interesting. And watching those things play out in the movie the characters in Armageddon are just kind of doing what they would be doing if they stayed on the oil rig, but they're in space. And it doesn't really change, and the circumstances don't change the characters for the most part, and they're all kind of doing what they'd be doing no matter what. And Michael Bay doesn't seem interested at all in pursuing any.
I think.
But I don't think Deep Impact is interested in pursuing any of that either. Yet it does bear resemblance to wanting to do that. It just doesn't. Like, it doesn't explore it. Like, we have the father-daughter relationship. It's the same as my problem with Rogue One. Like, I see it there. I see what you're going for. I see the emotional Felicity Jones scene looking at the Mads Mikkelsen hologram. And I see what you're trying to do, but you have failed in establishing the prerequisites for me to care in this scene now. As a result, the whole movie is not working for me. And that's exactly what's going on with Deep Impact, The hologram scene in Rogue One doesn't work. The beach scene doesn't work in this. None of it's working because you haven't done the necessary groundwork for me to care about the character. And it's interesting because it does work for people. Like, Rogue One works for a lot of people.
Yeah, well, I think Rogue One probably works for people the way that Deep Impact did. Because when you say that, like, comparison between the family, like, the daughter and the dad and stuff, Rogue One for me, it's a disaster. It's disgusting. It's an embarrassment of just character, just nothingness. Yeah. Absolute fucking nothingness.
And every character does it in Rogue One, like...
Yeah, no, it's Yeah, and the whole premise of that movie is like, not the whole, but like for me, if I was gonna make that movie, it's like we're gonna fucking kill everyone. So the only thing that matters in the whole movie is just making us not want them to die. And for me, in this movie, when Robert Duvall is like, we're gonna we can do this, and they're all like, what do you mean? But this and that, how are you gonna get out of here? And then the blind guy's like, we won't. I was like, oh my god. They're all gonna have to die. She makes that shit joke. She's like, at least we'll get high schools named after us, because her reaction is to like try and make light of it. And then they all just sit there in silence as they realize they have to die.
Did they blind that character just so that they could have him reveal that? And then there's some weird like dumb screenwriting thing where it's like, oh, the blind guy was the only one who could actually see what was going on.
So you say it like that and it sounds terrible. I felt like it just humanized the jock that didn't... Because the jock's he's like the leader of them. And he's like, I don't care about you, old man grandpa. And then the grandpa's like, but I'm real good at what I do. And then he's like, gets blinded and they have that fucking... I love that scene where he's like, teaching, he's like, do you read? He's like, I don't fucking read. I'm fucking 30, you fucking cunt. Why the fuck would I read a book, you idiot? They invented the TV. And he's like, oh, you're right. You're right. But then he reads him the book, and I don't know, man. I just fucking that scene. I was like, it changed my entire, because I don't think I liked them, and I think I was on your side with these shitty astronauts. I was like, oh, this is so. But that scene, I was just like, yes. And then at the end, when you think both of them aren't getting their loved ones coming in, but it's just the old man, and I don't know, all of that. I was just like, this is like the emotional weight that I need for them to do a sacrifice to save the world. And it's super bare bones. You are not wrong in that. But I feel like for me, because they decided to watch 3 different stories, it was enough for what the film itself was doing. And I don't know. It's so weird because everything I was saying, I'm like, you're right. But it just got me good. I think the music really helped. It has that very grand, epic, very American, very like, I don't know, it's just very, I don't know, something about the music was really beautiful to me, like, and just the way it swelled and kind of sucked you in. They sucked me in. It clearly did not work for you.
I found both movies had very, very manipulative music cues, and I felt like every time one of them started up, I just went, no, you haven't earned any of this.
Yeah, see, I think the music for me is part of earning it. It's like if the music's good and it gets me, then it gets me, like they've done, I don't know. For me, it's like such a big part of like what does work. Cause I was like flicking through scenes this morning and a scene played on a nothing moment. And I was like, oh my God, this like little like piano bit. And I was like, holy shit. And yeah, cause I was really thinking about this. Last time we had a huge disagreement about War for the Planet of the Apes. And I was like, it's this. But you know what I've been listening to for the last 2 weeks? The one song from Planet of the Apes. The one epic song, and it's just so good. And like, so for me, sometimes I think if the music just triggers whatever part of my brain that they're trying to trigger and it works successfully. Because for instance, sorry.
No, I'm just going to agree with your point and say that might be one of the big reasons Interstellar works so well for me, because I love the soundtrack so much and I've listened to it quite a lot. And
it is amazing.
When certain, soundtracks, when certain songs in the soundtrack play in the movie, like I'm totally in. I'm like, I know this whole song. I know the beats of it. I know how it aligns to the movie, and it brings back like the docking sequence in Interstellar is coupled with like just this like Hans Zimmer on the organ, like just playing his heart out, and it just works. And I hear that song, and it brings me back to that moment in the movie that, really it is not anything I haven't seen before, but probably because of the music, it does amp it up a bit and maybe add more than it otherwise would have. But I'm also just invested in the movie too. And that's all it boils down to. I think there are a lot of things in films that only work because we're invested in the moment, and that you do the same thing in another movie and it becomes irritating and grating.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a big part of why I think a lot of Deep Impact worked for you. you're invested. You're looking at it.
It just got me in. Like, yeah, it was,
You haven't seen it before, so it's completely new. Where I have seen Deep Impact a long time ago. My mum loved.
Oh yeah, so
my mum loves these movies, these disaster movies, these world-ending Roland Emmerich,
so
like all of them. She just consumes all of them. So I've always kind of seen bits and pieces, and I'm vaguely familiar with both of these movies, but can't say that I've watched either of them in their entirety until this week. So
yeah, it definitely feels like a film that I'm surprised that I wasn't like, hey, I've seen 30 minutes between this and this ad break. You know what I mean? Like,
it is.
For me as well. I was just thinking about something as you're talking. I feel like I'm going to forget it. I don't know. I think that, I mean, obviously, you know how we were talking just before the pod about like when you actually, like what position you're in, like your mental state, like whatever mood you're in to watch a movie can...
The state of the world.
And I really do think that if I watched Deep Impact 5 months ago, I would have been like, that is so stupid, the idea of Morgan Freeman getting on the TV and being like, no one over 50 is allowed on the bunker. We've made a bunker. That's what we're going to do. You know, I would have been like, I don't know. But to me, it was like, that is literally, not literally, that is completely not literally what they've done now. But they have literally, I mean, I keep saying literally.
Literally doesn't mean what it means anymore. So you're using it correctly.
I know, yeah. The government pretty much just went and said, hey, this is the thing. We've implemented this state of emergency. You don't get a say. You woke up and it wasn't a police state. Now it is. Deal with it. Not your choice. And I felt like the way this movie did those bits where at the start of the movie, he's like, we've got a plan. And in the middle of the movie, he's like, the plan didn't work. This is what we're going to do. It just felt like, I don't know. I just felt like I was in the movie where I was like, I can imagine just turning on the TV. I get home from work. I'm fucking tired. I just want to play my video games. And then the TV's like, you're fucked. You're not allowed in the bunker bar as well. And I was just like, oh my, I don't know. It just, I don't know. I think that just the idea of the movie, I was more like, because we've been watching a bunch of apocalypse things recently, but I was staying away from things that felt too real. Because like it being a water world, that's not going to happen in our lifetime. Dragons coming and burning us all away, not happening. Unfortunately, apes becoming super smart and beating us all to death, not going to happen. This just felt like something that they could be like, hey, a scientist just saw this thing in the sky. Now we're fucked, and now you got to just deal with your existential crises. These films are very much like, I don't know, sorry, both these films have asteroids, but especially Deep Impact, at least for me, was very much, how do we as humans deal with this? It's over. It's fucking going to be over. And they really do try and hammer that home until that last 15, 20 minutes where they're like, the astronauts have got it. It's fine. Don't even sweat. Except for, I did enjoy that like a little bit broke off so they were able to still give us that kind of devastation and give us that kind of cathartic.
Yeah.
Cathartic release is maybe the wrong word, but it's like kind of, you almost need to see a bit of destruction at the end. Otherwise, it would be fun. I mean, obviously the world disagrees with me. So it's fucking 40% on Rotten Tomatoes. But it's like that kind of like, you know, if there'd been no meteor to give a little bit of damage, it would have been very easy win, even though it cost all the lives of the astronauts. So it would have been a very easy win. So I did enjoy that kind of destruction. But what it really reminded me of, that I think potentially does it better, is this Australian film called These Final Hours. And it's a film I saw at MIFF like 4 or 5 years ago. I remember I saw it twice. I only had 2 screenings on it. I saw it twice. And it's essentially, it starts, and it's like, hey, I'm this Australian news reporter. And like a guy's like driving down the street or whatever. And he's just like, hey, so everyone get ready. We've got 12 more hours till the meteor hits. And it's, or like the meteor's already hit or something. And it's like the meteor's hit somewhere and it's just slowly erupting over the world. And Perth just happens to be, because of where it hit, one of the last to be engulfed by the flames of destruction.
Right.
And so everyone in this universe is, I just realized the plot of this film and why I like it. You're going to laugh so much when I explain it. And so this guy's like driving, he's got a girlfriend, but she's at the beach waiting for him, but he's not going there. He's going to a party, the end-all party, with these mates that are there at the party. And it's just his journey through this like apocalyptic Perth landscape. You know, there's garbage bags everywhere. It's that classic like cars on the street,
Yeah.
There's a maniac with a machete who's just killing people, and this guy, like the kind of inciting incident of the story is like this guy finds a little girl, like a 7-year-old girl, fantastic actress. She's been in something else. Oh no, she was the girl in that movie with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. The Nice Guys. She's the daughter in The Nice Guys.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Fucking great actress. Great little actress. She is the main character of this movie with he's that Australian guy. You're just going to have to Google it later. These Final Hours, the actor of that, he's great. He's Australian too, I think. And he finds her, he saves her for some rapists or whatever, and then it's their journey. Like, it's like, he's got to get her home before the end of the world. And then he's got to decide who he's going to spend or how he's going to spend these final hours. Right. And I feel like, I don't know, as I was watching Deep Impact, I remember thinking, I think that's a bit like gritty and gross, and there's a guy with a machete, he cuts a guy's head off, and there's a bit of blood, and it's a bit like bombastic. There are people playing Russian roulette at the party at end-all parties, and a very 19-year-old me, I saw it at the cinema and was like, it's the greatest film I've ever seen. Everyone in my film class was like, it's good, it's fine. I'm like, you're an idiot. This is what a movie is, you fucking idiot. You're fucking idiots. But like, I think my 19-year-old self, that was just everything I could expect or want from a movie. And I would have found Deep Impact intolerable.
Yeah.
But I think just, I don't know, as I'm getting older, as I'm getting grays in my hair, I just felt like certain elements of the movie, like a daughter who's hated her dad forever. And then she just goes, you know what? I guess it's the end of the world, so it's now or it's never. And then she just chooses to forgive him. And I just found that so beautiful.
Yeah.
But you are not wrong in that because I was just thinking about these final hours, and that movie is just him in his car, and then 10 minutes in with the girl, all the way to the end, pretty much. And then that ending is, I was gonna say I don't want to spoil it, but that's what we do here. But he has almost the same ending as the character from Deep Impact, and it's really, really powerful, and the visual effect is incredible for an Australian film. Right. Not that I guess it doesn't really matter, but I don't know, man. I would love to see what you think of that film. I wish I'd thought about this during the week.
Yeah. Well, you didn't know until you watched the movie, which
that is true. Yeah, and I waited till now because I was busy playing Spider-Man on PlayStation all week. It's so good. I feel like I've probably fleshed out all the reasons that you're wrong about Deep Impact. No, for transition to something like the one big difference I felt between Deep Impact and then Armageddon, if we want to slowly transition to Armageddon, is that Armageddon's big asteroid that comes at the planet is a giant big visual effect. There's steam and smoke and gases flying off it. It's jaggedy. It's so much coming at me at the screen that I was like, oh, yeah. All right. Deep Impact, there's a shot where you see the planet. It's on the edge of the screen, and you slowly come back a bit as the sun kind of comes around it. And then there's just the small asteroid and then the big asteroid. And they're just these kind of simple matte painting kind of looking thing. I don't know, probably just a visual effect or whatever, but I don't know how they did it. But it just felt like this very quaint, beautiful, simplistic imagery. And it was haunting, especially that one time. A few of the other times I was like, 98 effects. Yeah. Ooh. But I don't know, the simplicity of it. It was just, it's coming and that's it. You know what I mean? Like it just felt very cookie cutter and simplistic, but in the way that I felt was tangible. Michael Bay's one was it's like he saw this movie somehow and was like, that's boring. I'm so bored. Look how slow the asteroid's going. We need to get up close. We need to have 50,000 rocks flinging off it at all times. Yeah. We need to have it kind of shaking. The camera needs to be way too close.
The asteroids are perfect representations of the film.
Exactly.
Of their respective films, yeah.
Beautiful phrasing. Yeah. That's exactly what I was trying to get to somehow.
No, yeah, I see exactly what you mean. I did find it interesting though that they both had a very similar kind of bluish, faded halo-y effect around them. Which did you notice that? Yeah,
yes, the exact same weird kind of gassy atmosphere effect off it, and
which seems
it's like they had the same plug-in, but then Michael Bay put on the doomsday effect. And then it got all the spikes and shit, you know?
Which must just be a stylistic sci-fi choice of that era, because you don't see that anymore. Like, you see an
Not
asteroid,
at all, yeah.
An asteroid now is just jagged and rocky, and none of that. So that's interesting. That time period that was what Hollywood was doing, and obviously you have the different directors approaching how to shoot it, but the base kind of design, there was such a big overlap.
Yeah, no, you are right, because that was the first thing I noticed, was that the asteroid wasn't just a rock, that had this mist thing going on. We
also watched these movies in opposite orders, which is interesting. I watched Armageddon, then Deep Impact, which I think if I did it, if I could, send myself a note and be like, what order should I watch these in? I should have probably gone Deep Impact first.
Was there a reason? Because I just watched it in the order, like, as if I was in 98 going to the cinemas.
I just thought that I honestly thought I would get more out of Deep Impact. So I thought I'll watch...
It's a dangerous game to have presumptions.
Yeah, so I thought I'll get Armageddon out of the way, because I'm pretty sure I know exactly what the film's going to be. And if there are surprises, they're going to come from Deep Impact. And I think I was just disappointed in how... I just could not get into Deep Impact at all. I just don't think that there's anything about it that worked for me that I would really want to see again. I feel like it might be the blandest interpretation of the genre and movie, and everything I'm looking for in a movie is just not done to my taste. And
interesting, yeah.
And did not offer anything outside of what I thought that I was going to get, and in most cases just fell short of what even the barest expectations were I had of it. So, and that sounds like a pretty scathing review, but Armageddon just was exactly what I thought it was going to be, and also kind of impressed me in a weird way with just how it was able to sustain its pace. I think I kind of give the movie a little bit more respect, because I can see how much more effort went into it. Which and because
in different ways, though. I would say that it succeeds in doing what it wants to do. Michael Bay intended to make that movie. This is the crazy. He meant to make it, I think.
The crazy part is that many years later, when he was doing press for another movie, talked about Armageddon, and the fact that if he could do it again, he would redo the whole third act, and they had so little time to get the movie made, and that the studio took the film off them. And you can find all his comments, and that to me made it even more confusing. The fact that he thinks the third act is the problem with this movie just speaks to how disconnected he is from reality, I think. The third act is exactly what the first two acts of the movie are leading to, yeah?
There's no moment in the film where I was like, holy shit, did Michael Bay lose control of this film? Every second of it was like, he knows what he's doing, he wants to do this. Not a second of I disagree with his comments. You sent me a video of Michael Bay and he was real unimpressed with the spacesuits he got, apparently, and that was the most important thing in the movie to him, and that is amazing. That's the only time I think I've actually heard him speak as well. I don't think I've really heard him speak about, I haven't watched behind the scenes of anything, but that's exactly how I imagined him. Saying fuck a lot, being real aggressive and intense and kind of a lot. And
hilariously, the reasoning behind his dissatisfaction with the person who was doing the spacesuits, he blames on them being French.
Yes. Which is
so
such
funny.
It's so funny, and such a... I feel like if you watch a lot of his films and then you hear him say something like that, you're like, yeah. He's making the films he wants to make. He's
exactly the person who watches the movies that he... Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Although I will, because I don't know, there was parts of me that was like having quite an enjoyable romp, But like there was a few elements that for me were just so aggressively offensive or just odd, just bizarre. And like Steve Buscemi, I think I now hate him because of this movie, because he's like a pedophile, but it's played off as a joke. Or I'm misinterpreting the joke, because his first scene is saying, his first joke is that he had to show Liv Tyler, whatever the fuck her name is, how he had to show Arwen when she was 10 how to use a tampon or something. And then he's like, I didn't show her, I just explained it. And then Bruce Willis like looks at her in the eye and he's like, and then the FBI rock up and he's like, out of nowhere, just goes up and he's like, I didn't know how young she was. And Bruce Willis is like, this isn't about you, Steve Buscemi. Obvious and open pedophile.
His character quirk is pedophilia. Yeah, it's a very strange choice.
And then later on in the film, I don't know, I feel like there was 3 or 4 times that he just, like, yes, when they're doing the recruitment Suicide Squad, like, let's get the band back together, it's a heist movie moment. His bit is that the cops come up to him and then he looks at the girl he's talking to and is like, how old are you? And it's like, it's been 25 minutes in your 3-hour fucking movie and Steve Buscemi's made 3 pedophile jokes already. I just don't know how to respond.
Well, they then top that character off by have him at the most important point in the movie firing a machine gun into the air and at people. And then being tackled and then taped to a chair for the rest of the movie.
Because he got space dementia. Mahone from Prison Break's like, he's got space dementia. And it's like,
out of nowhere.
How? Out of nowhere. Nothing happened.
He seems completely within his right mind as well. Like, he's talking the whole time. And apart from the insane act of shooting that gun, is at no other point kind of out of his mind, and that it's so strange.
He's not even out of his mind at that point, because 10 minutes later he's like, I wasn't crazy. I just wanted to have some fun before I fucking died. He had gone crazy, but only in the sense that he'd given up.
Yes.
I don't know, man.
We are trying to find logic in mindless mess, which is not intelligent to do. So this is why I mean, I might just be more forgiving of this movie and less insulted by it, because I know how Michael Bay's mind works. I feel like I've got a pretty good idea of it, and he's just kind of a teenage boy, and he wants to make movies for teenage boys, and his movies have never worked for me. So I feel
like never ever, not even
never ever, and none
so
of
when
them,
you were 12, Transformers, when it came out in the cinema, didn't work for you.
The first Transformers is probably the closest a Michael Bay film has come to me going, I get what people see in this. And even the first Transformers film, I found, like, I remember in 2007 watching that movie and being like, wow, visual effects are crazy. And, you know, and then we got really, Iron Man the next year, and I was like, they've done it. Like, they did Transformers and then Iron Man, and those 2 visual effects like sold us on like metal.
Robot Man.
Yeah, like they really, that was the era of nailing that, and then it was just knocked out of the park with like a Chappie and, you know, things like that.
Yeah, Chappie's
They just built on that. But
because I don't know, because you say he's like a 15-year-old boy making movies for 15-year-old boys, and I feel like
I don't like Transformers, by the way. I just wanted to get to my end of the point there. I don't. The movie doesn't work. I find Shia LaBeouf, who tends to actually, like, he can really deliver a solid performance, but he can also just fall into this weird pitfall of doing the Shia LaBeouf routine of like stuttering and speaking really fast and stammering out his lines and
he's got like a thing he did for like a period.
Yeah, and it was probably more now like watching interviews with Michael Bay and watching interviews with actors who work with Michael Bay and seeing them all say the same thing. It's like, do the thing that we know you do, and like you had Steve Buscemi appearing in all these Adam Sandler movies during this period, and he was the bit guy doing the little gag. And what this movie is Michael Bay like running with that in the wrong direction. It's like Adam Sandler gets Steve Buscemi in and he plays this wacky character. There's a couple of crazy lines in each of the movies because I think they're buddies from way back on maybe Saturday Night Live or something. And then but Michael Bay sees that, and then he's like, I'm gonna do that but worse, and like really inappropriately, and like all of these badass characters are just the same, like cut from the same cloth, where it's like, and every character arc is like something you've kind of vaguely seen in another movie before, and all of it's been repackaged in this like music video-esque rapid pace editing style. Every shot is the biggest, most important shot ever. The dolly zooming around, and I mean, this is what every Michael Bay movie is to me. And I think all you do is see the technology change over his career, and at certain periods of time, his sensibility works, and with the right actors and the right roles, maybe they work a little bit more and work a little bit less, because he gives the actors so much kind of free reign to do whatever they want. Like, I was listening to the full audio commentary track with Ben Affleck, which goes for 30 minutes. There was 30 minutes of it on YouTube. And they really just kept repeating over and over that it was like Michael Bay being like, hey, do a thing like this, and the actor just figuring it out. And that's how most of these scenes play out. It's like Bruce Willis running around shooting at Ben Affleck with a gun was...
Oh my God, what a fucking wild way to start a movie.
It's probably just one line in the script where these two characters have disagreement about sleeping with X's daughter, and they just figure out the beats of it on the day at the oil rig, and they've got a helicopter, and they can do all of this stuff, and like everything is too much over the top, but nothing's had any thought put into it at all up until on the day. And all you're left with is this, at times, really kind of like pretty imagery, and
some of the stuff is beautiful.
The cinematographers must just have a field day on his movies, because they just get to...
You'd have such a fun time.
They would just get to fill their show reel, and that's really who comes out of these movies in front. It really... I mean, his movies are an expert class on how to deliver scope and scale and distance and make your movies seem so much bigger than they are. He also famously works very closely with the Air Force and US military, so he gets availability. I think I heard in an interview they calculated the total value of all the hardware in Armageddon is $19 billion of Air Force hardware that is on show here, between the spaceships and the helicopters and the planes and all of the hardware that they went out. And Michael Bay said he filmed all of it himself. It was his crew doing all of it. And they showed... That is a lot. Yeah, they showcase the military in a certain light, and it awards them certain favors.
Because they get to use it for free, except for ammo, I've read somewhere. If he shows them in a non-negative light. Like, it has to be generally positive.
Well, they're generally not...
Very
the US military generally just kind of fall into... I mean, you know, in every Michael Bay movie, they're just kind of there in third parties often, operating. And what he'll do... Like, saying Transformers is a good... Transformers is like kind of right in the middle of his career and kind of does a bit of everything all his other movies do, where you know, the Air Force are shown as like big badass chiseled jaw tough guys, and it's the you know, a collection of like actors at the time who looked like the military guys, and in Transformers it's the couple of
that dude from Las Vegas.
Yeah, I can't think of who any of them are, but you know who they are.
There's the dude from that other franchise
and then it's like
it's Tyrese from
and then he gets John Turturro to play the CIA guy who's a bumbling buffoon and is kind of more the bad guy. And then, you know, we're following Shia LaBeouf, and it's the military just like a third party kind of.
They're just there to look badass and cool for that
and walk in slow motion.
He needs exactly to have I feel like shoots
that awards him. You know? Well, yes, but it also he's working because he's got all of this extra, because he can just throw a helicopter in the back of a shot. It awards him so much more scale.
Sorry, yes.
All of these things that, say, like a Disney film where they just don't have access to it and they have to do it with a green screen. and I think you see that, like, you know, when Avengers came out in 2012, there was a Transformers movie that came out the year before, and they seemed like, if you cut like parts of them together, they're so similar. But Michael Bay does such a better job of selling the scale of the city-wide destruction. But Avengers works so much better, even though Joss Whedon is so far less equipped to deal with the scale and the scope of things, and does, quite frankly, a much poorer job of what Michael Bay does, because he gets the character beats. That's why that's why you've seen the Marvel universe become what it's become, and the Transformer universe kind of peter out.
Armageddon, I had heard somehow that I just knew about the Ben Affleck being like, what the fuck? You can't get astronauts to learn how to drill, but drillers to do space? Or, you know, I'd heard about that.
Yeah.
Hadn't actually listened to the video when you sent that to me before we started doing this. I was like, oh, that's really fucking awesome to hear. So funny to actually hear, especially once you've seen the movie. Because I think when the movie for Armageddon was like really, really working for me, was like, not working for me, but I was like being quite bemused by it and not being like, ugh, by it, was like, one, the start bit where he's like, Ben Affleck, get out of bed. And we see like the feet kind of recede into the thing, which I actually thought was a beautiful shot. And then just the whole being like, my daughter, he's like shooting him and the guns are just so stupid and insane. There's a bit where Ben Affleck's just flying down like a firefox on the oil drill, and like they have to smash the oil out, exploding everywhere. It's just very heightened and intense. And like I was kind of enjoying that, like on the oil rig. I feel like, side note, that he'd really be good at making just like, it would probably been a better film if just them on the oil rig, just trying to get some oil or something. Yeah. Because I don't know, there was like the tangible realness of like getting that oil. And they're like, we did it. I was like, yeah, I don't know. This is all, I don't know, like pretty cool. But, oh, what the fuck? I was just about to lead to something else, and I've just got so excited about this oil stuff. I've completely spaced on what I was trying to explain.
Oh, damn.
What was the things that... no, it's just gone. Oh my God. This movie's destroyed my brain. Maybe I didn't have anything to say about it.
Yeah, I thought I would have more to say about Armageddon, and then as soon as we got into it, I was like, maybe I just feel like I can see through it too much. Like we've said, you know, you can see the parts moving, you can see what the director's telling the actors to do in each scene, and it's just, here's A point, B point, and let's get there as kind of, I don't know, with as many shots as possible, in the most locations as possible, with the most going on, but with as little substance underwriting it as possible. So
he wants the smallest script with actual dialogue, but make it the longest movie, you know? Yeah. Like each page is 50 minutes of the movie. He's just like, I remember the thing. It was the thing that Ben Affleck hated. He's like, why send drillers up there? I think that's a bit of a silly complaint of this movie. I think part of the movie's charm, if it has any, is that it's so, like, you know, there's a scene where Bruce Willis comes, he's like, you scientists, you don't know how to build a drill. What is this part? All this stuff, and they're like, you need to teach these scientists. He's like, I can't. These astronaut scientists, they can't do it. They won't know how to drill. I got to get my boys, my underdog boys.
Ben Affleck does also touch on that. He's like, what? They don't know how to build a drill, but they know how to build all this like incredible...
Yeah,
So I don't know. You just have to... I understand his complaint isn't especially... Like, once you watch the movie...
is funny. But once you watch the movie, man, it's just like... There's like, this film is exactly that. It's how crazy would it be if we got a bunch of drillers to go into space? They've got the odds against them, and it's got that underdoggy feel where you're like, yeah, fuck the scientists. They don't know how to do it. It's the man. He's got the shovel and the pickaxe. He can do it, like the hard working man. Your blue collar boy, and you've got all your sexy Hollywood actors to like kind of not ground them, I guess, but to like heighten that like underdogness. And I generally thought, in terms of casting with his ragtag group of oil drillers, I really liked the cast. not that they really did anything or anything, but I felt like there was moments with all of them where I was like, these actors at least seem like they're having fun. And this might even be my last thought. I mean, who knows? I won't say that. I feel like I say that too often. But it's like, I think something I loved in this movie was just watching Bruce Willis like act. Like actually act. Because we've grown up and I don't know. I feel like this movie was 98. So I'm 5 when this came out. So I reckon I was 10 when he stopped caring about movies, you know? Like, I feel like every movie that's come out in the cinema that I've seen with him is him just not giving a shit. Just being that Bruce Willis in interviews, like that Red interview where he seems like the worst man that's ever lived. Whereas in this movie, I felt like I was seeing the Hollywood actor. Like, there was a bit where he was like, just looked down at this character and was doing a thing. And I was like, look at Bruce Willis acting, using his face and stuff. Like, I don't know. I found that really like comforting to know that at one point he did try and was good, and that he didn't just get to where he was with nothing. And I guess that's not really anything to do with the movie itself, but just more with him as an actor. But I've always found him really disappointing, especially in the last. Like, I remember watching Pulp Fiction again a couple of years ago, and it was just like, holy fuck, he's so good.
Yeah, no, and I think even I not that I can really think of any specific examples. I guess maybe something like Looper, where he does seem to be putting a little bit more into it than normal.
See, everything I've said is wrong. I think he's great in Looper, even though Looper's not like good. I don't know how I feel about Looper, but he's acting in that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's like every Rian Johnson film, I guess.
I liked it the first time, and now I don't know what.
It's a dangerous mixed bag of.
A dangerous mixed bag. I love that. The idea of a mixed bag where you're like, oh, this candy's delicious, but then you eat one and it blows your face off.
Yeah,
like, no, such a dangerous mixed bag. No, so as soon as you say that, I'm like trying to think of a bunch of films. All I'm thinking of is Good Friday. Die Hard 5. Die Hard 5? Yeah. Good Day to Die Young or Die Hard?
I've only watched Die Hard 1 and 3.
Oh, well, you've done... Yeah, you don't want to watch the others, because 2's like a weird remake of 1, but shit.
People have been telling me this my whole life, so I've just listened to everyone, and I just watched 1 and 3, and to me...
Sometimes it's the best way.
Die Hard is like one of the greatest film series ever, with 2 excellent films.
3 is really good. I think 3 is way better than 1. Like, I've always found 1 to be probably the most overrated action film.
3 is just it's so different, and it greatly benefits by the chemistry of Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis.
Yeah. And the duo dynamic is sick.
Yeah, and they're just together for like a really decent part of the movie, and it just seems like a very well put together and fairly simple and straightforward. See, that's what Michael Bay does simple and straightforward, but it feels kind of lazy and empty and shallow, and I feel like I can see through it. Whereas like a Die Hard 3 feels simple and by the numbers, but there's just enough there to... The characters are kind of sustaining the action, and I'm getting along with everyone, and I like everyone in this situation, and the comedy's coming out of the situation with them together, and it's kind of funny how like Die Hard 3 is not as kind of expertly made as Michael Bay seems to in the cinematography and scope and scale department, but that I would just rather watch that any day of the week than one of his movies.
But it's like because I kind of agree with like the Michael Bay, like just in terms of the competency and the way it looks and stuff. But for instance, like when I was watching Deep Impact, I was like, just look at how simple it is. Like, you know, there's a shot where it just pans up over the highway, and I was like, holy fuck. How many cars did they... Like, I can't imagine wrangling that many cars. I was so impressed.
Actually, one of the few things that impressed me in the movie was...
because that was awesome.
The traffic jam sequences looked
so
really
real.
Good. Yeah.
It looks so real.
I feel like Spielberg is the only one who can do, like, a traffic jam that good. I feel
what
like
movie's his traffic jam from?
I like the big one I can really remember is like War of the Worlds, where it feels like half the movie is just spent weaving in and out of traffic jams. And...
That is true. I've not rewatched that since it came out because I loved that at the time, and everyone was like, "It sucks. Tom Cruise is a bad actor. Why did the son just walk back in?" And I was like, "Oh man, I thought he was such a good shitty dad. I thought he played such a good shitty dad."
Yeah.
And I love that movie, but I've never rewatched it because it's one of those things that I just love, and everyone's like, "It sucks," and I was like,
"No, it doesn't suck.
I don't want to."
It holds up, and it's. I think if you're gonna do just like let's follow a character through kind of visually spectacular feast and ground it in that. I mean, everything. This is where J.J. Abrams gets a lot of his Spielberg stuff from. It seems like movies like War of the Worlds, more than like the way he shoots people just running through a traffic jam that's been like that's what Spielberg does really well, and that's what J.J. Abrams replicates from Spielberg. Like I'm just thinking of like when Kylo Ren takes Rey in The Force Awakens and Finn is running through Maz Kanata's like destroyed castle,
destroyed city, and that big Y that comes to his close up.
Or like
Tom
Cruise running in Mission Impossible 3 feels very him emulating Spielberg, and
the bit in Shanghai where he just runs through a street in like a wide shot for like a minute. That's the greatest. I think it's Shanghai, something like that.
And that's what. Like I was like, oh wow, this like traffic jams. We should have spent more time here because this feels really like cinematic, and it feels way bigger than you've made it feel a lot bigger than it actually is, and it
feels tangible. Like the idea of being stuck in that like traffic jam and kind of you're fucked. Well, like you're stuck there.
I kind of as I was watching the movie, I really liked the idea that like they're setting they're saying that this is going to wipe out a majority of the Earth and there's very few places you can go. So I kind of like the idea that, in a movie like this, people would have theories of places that would survive that are elevated enough, and people would flock to these locations, and that would be a good way to watch drama play out between characters. This is something that would naturally occur. I thought they were going to lean into it a bit more, but I don't know, they don't.
The only one film like this that I can think I've actually seen is The Day After Tomorrow, the one where the Statue of Liberty is in the snow and the dogs come out and fight them.
And they have to run away from the weather. Yeah.
They run away from the ice. That's right. So I remember hating that film as a kid, and I think it destroyed my thought of all these type of films, which is probably why I've never watched any of these.
Is Jake Gyllenhaal in that?
Yeah, he is. Jake Gyllenhaal and...
Kevin Costner? Why do I think he's in it? He's not in it.
Could be Kevin Costner as the dad, but it also could not be.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But that film, I feel like, did some really good stuff. No, I can't
Dennis
exactly
Quaid.
Dennis Quaid.
Sorry, I just Googled it.
No, but that's, they are very similar for some reason. Even though they're probably not at all. But like, I don't know, like, have you seen that? And I'm just curious on your thoughts on that, just in context of the overall apocalyptic, the planet's fucked kind of movie.
Yeah, I don't know. People seem to get real great joy and satisfaction out of watching the world get a kind of like, famous locations get ripped apart, and it's...
Yeah, these two films have a big issue with being like, Paris is destroyed, and they just show Paris getting ripped apart by like, whatever.
I wonder how much cinema feeds into, like, as we, cinema is a relatively new thing in human history. And it may be largely responsible for iconographing, if that's the right word, or even is a word, so many locations around the world just because we like destroying them in movies. Like, isn't that funny to think about? Like, maybe locations wouldn't be as famous as they are had they not been selected
destroyed
to be
every 2 years.
Yeah, like would the Sydney Opera House be as iconic if every time they cut to Australia in a movie and it was being destroyed? That's the place you destroy when you're destroying the world,
so
and you're doing it.
This big landmark that it really isn't.
Well, yeah,
in Australia.
I mean, many
I've
people
been there.
globally.
It's a shit.
Yeah,
I've been there. It's shit. It's not the best part of like your view when you're looking at that.
And that's what people famously always say when they go to Paris and they see the Eiffel Tower and they're always
Oh yeah,
disappointed.
I've been, and the Eiffel Tower is a giant metal stick pointing up in the sky. And the only thing impressive about it is the same as when you get to the edge of a skyscraper and you just look right up and you go, fuck, that's pretty high, isn't it? And that's the same with all high things, all mountains, all like I have that with trees that are close to me. I go and you can stand right at the bottom of the tree and just look up and you're like, holy shit.
But it's shorthand for this location, I guess.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's and movie making it feeds into this, and
I think you're onto something.
Every extra movie we do it in further feeds into this is an iconic location, and it becomes
it's a cliche now to destroy giant landmarks, which means it's been done, so many times, and like, would anyone care about the Statue of Liberty if they never did that Planet of the Apes thing?
I mean, sure, we would, because, I
don't know, though. That's, like, one of my favorite things ever.
Because
like,
the Statue of...
that, and it's so iconic because of that thing.
And there's several Statue of Liberties, but the only iconic one is the one in New York because of Planet of the Apes, presumably.
Is that true?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there's a movie where he has to go to a different statue. Like, it's a Nicolas Cage movie. Where he has to go find the other Statue of Liberty, which is somewhere else. Because it was a gift. I'm pretty sure the Statue of Liberty
from France or some shit, right?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure there is another one there that's much smaller.
Oh my god.
And I could be completely wrong, but...
I think you're actually... No, I mean, not about this, I don't know about that, but you're just... In terms of just iconography and why it becomes iconic, it's like... Yeah, because like, I don't know, even just the X-Men movie, it's set like in the tower of that building. And it's just so many things are just set with it. Like, what's that bloody movie that has all the terrible sequels that weren't sequels? Name's not coming. Cloverfield.
Oh yes.
The trailer and the ad, the whole marketing behind Cloverfield was what monster fucking took its head.
Yes.
And that's it. Everyone went to see that movie because we're like, what took the Statue of Liberty's fucking head?
Yeah.
What could do that? And I don't know. I mean, we'll never know because it's just movies are so ingrained in us that it's hard to tell what becomes iconic because of that, or if it's just iconic and that's then why it is used. Oh my god, this is a fascinating thing to just kind of sit on, though.
I did find myself like refixated back into the movie when the disaster porn turns on in Deep Impact. I was like, all right, this is kind of. Like you said,
it's a tsunami.
It was a catharsis, even for me. Even though I wasn't into the movie, it was like it was like at the end of Godzilla. I was like, I've watched what's his name, Aaron Taylor, whoever the hell.
It doesn't matter. Fuck that guy.
Stare blankly at the camera for 2 hours. But you know what? We're here. I'm going to enjoy Godzilla rip this moth into pieces, or whatever the hell that was, the big bug.
The big bugs.
But it may, like, I don't ever want to watch 2014's Godzilla again because there's just not enough there. I will just skip to the end and I'll watch that part. And then that's the Gareth Evans kind of rule, I guess, is his movies, there's about 2 minutes and 30 seconds of like truly spectacular. Yeah.
But then is it as spectacular if the whole rest of the movie wasn't trash? Is it only spectacular
because of the build-up
being in a shit film? Shit build-up though, where you needing something, so he appears and you're like, he's on screen.
Well, Darth Vader wrecking those rebels in that hallway. It's not that good an action sequence. It's like pretty.
Not if the rest of the movie was great. If the rest of the movie was a great war film, it would be a nothing action scene.
I mean, if Donnie Yen got a lightsaber and was fighting Darth Vader in that hallway at the end, it would be way better. Because you would be at least partially invested in someone dying. If it was the Rogue One crew in there,
just all standing there,
getting killed one by one, getting mown down. It's Felicity Jones right at the end, like take it, and then she's
the one. Yeah, that'd be so good.
Yeah, and then you lead right in. It's probably a better film for it. So, and the fact that whole sequence was a reshoot is just crazy. But that's what Deep Impact kind of felt like for me. It's like a big bunch of stuff happening with a bunch of tangential characters I don't care about that never develop anything worth getting invested in, followed by a little bit of destruction porn, and then it's over.
Yeah.
And
I did love that the restraint to hold back until the last like 10 minutes of the movie though. To like show anything like that. Like I was like, cool. Whereas Michael Bay's movie starts, it's like spaceship, explosions, city, explosions, Shanghai, it's on fire. I'm like,
so much
it's
has
like 20
exploded
minutes in. Fucking hell.
Oh, even 10 minutes more has exploded than
The whole of
It's
Impact,
insane that I mean, it feels like there's so much more destruction in Armageddon, even though the entire world is wiped out in Deep Impact. Spoiler Talk is produced by KCBN Studios and Space Kraken Media.